All right, number 1. We already talked about which is a linear function. Linear means y equals mx plus b. So which one looks like that? A. That's it. That's the only one that looks like that. Do you remember what option 2 is? Or option B? Do you remember what that's called? Nope. It's quadratic. That one's quadratic. What is C? Good job. Exponential. X is the exponent. Does anybody remember the last one is? Oh, lovely. Hey, if you don't have this, write it down just to have it. All right. So now, 2, what is the classification of the function? F of x equals 5 to the x minus 1. Which one is it?
B.
It's B. How can you tell?
X is in the exponent.
X is in the exponent. Ugh. I love it. So B. We say x is the exponent. Lovely. All right, number 3. Sarah drove to the grocery store. She was at the grocery store for several minutes. Then Sarah drove back to her house. The graph shows this relationship. In the graph, what is the dependent quantity?
D.
Ooh, I hear a lot.
D.
What did I tell you? What did I teach you about time?
It's always independent.
Time is always independent, which means that time is not the answer. So the other thing. So it's D. Because that's the other option. Yeah, y-axis is always dependent, x-axis is always independent. Good job. Sorry. All right, number 4. Which best describes the behavior of the function?
B.
How can you tell? What part of the equation do you look at?
The slope.
The slope. What do you tell me about the slope? 2 over 3. It's positive, which means I'm writing positive slope. Beautiful. All right, for number 5, it seems like there was some confusion. Rachel?
If it was constant, what would it look like?
Oh, if it was constant, that's actually going to come up in a slightly later question, so hold that thought. So number 5, which characteristics best describe the graph?
B.
Okay, let me ask you this. Is this a straight line or a curve? Curve. It's not linear. It's a curved line. I looked at my answer choices, and I noticed that I've got exponential and exponential, or I have linear absolute value, linear absolute value. What do you know about an absolute value graph? It's shaped like a V. It literally looks like that. Well, this doesn't look like that, so C and D are out. What's the difference between A and B? Increasing, decreasing. Does this graph go up the whole time or down the whole time?
Down.
So it's B. Lovely. Are we doing good so far?
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay. Which graph represents a function? Who remembers how to do this? Autumn. Write it down. Vertical line test. Does A pass the vertical line test?
No.
No, look at that. Boom. I'm covering up the whole thing. So it's not A. Does B?
No.
Definitely not. There's my pen. Boom. Out. What about C?
No.
Nope. So process of elimination.
D.
It is D. Hey, Rachel. That's a constant function. Just go straight across. You maybe write that down. This is a constant function. I promise I can write. It goes straight across. It does not increase or decrease. It's flat. All right. Number 7 is a slightly tricky question. Which statement about the function f of x equals negative absolute value of x plus 3 is true? What do you think? Did you say D? B, you think? Okay, here's what I'll tell you. The equation f of x equals absolute value of x is shaped like this. All right? It opens up. It looks like a V. That has a minimum, right? It's got a lowest point. So now, if we're taking this and we're making it negative, that means we're flipping it upside down. So it will have an absolute maximum because it will be shaped upside down, like a mountain instead of a V. So far, so good? All right. Number 8. What is the classification of the function f of x equals negative, parentheses, x plus 1, close parentheses, squared, plus 7? It is, in fact, quadratic. You can tell because the exponent is the 2. Yes, Summer? Yes, for a quadratic, the exponent will always be true. If the exponent is a different number, it is no longer a quadratic, it's a different type of function.
So if there is an exponent with a 2, it's always quadratic.
If the variable has an exponent of 2. So, see, the squared will apply to the x. So that's why. Summer? Potentially, but you won't see it like until college. Yeah. Okay. Number 9. It's coming back again, Rachel. Which is a constant function? I'm going to tell you right now that you should be able to do this by process of elimination. It is A. C is a linear function with a positive slope. And we know that constant functions do not have a positive or negative slope. They're flat. A constant function is going to look like y equals a number or f of x equals a number. Please be writing down everything that I write down on your paper, even if you know it. If you want those extra credit points, you are going to hand this in with everything written down on it. All right, number 10. What is the solution to the equation? All right, let's distribute. So we got 4x minus 12 minus 8 equals 16. So 4x minus 20 equals 16. So 4x equals 36. X equals D. How are we doing so far? Lovely. 11's a big one. Let's see if I can get this whole thing in. Oh, would you look at that? Okay, which graph most clearly shows a negative correlation? What does that mean? What about down? So I want you to write the points are decreasing. The points are going down. In A, does it look like there's a pretty negative correlation there? Yeah, okay, but it says most clearly, so we just have to make sure that's the best one. In B, it's vaguely negative, kind of, but they're pretty spread out, huh? You could argue what? For B? I mean, you could probably argue anything because there's really like hardly any correlation. C is definitely positive. D is super spread out, so A is definitely the best option.
What is it called when it goes for now?
No correlation? Yeah, when it's really, really spread out, like in D, you would just say that this one is just no correlation. And so the correlation coefficient for that one's going to be really, really close to what number? 0. Good job, guys. All right. We're going to do number 12, and then I'll start sending some of y'all to the bathroom as we work. But I'm not going to stop. We're going to keep going. All right. So what is the value of this at x equals negative 4.2? So you are plugging in. Let's see. We got negative 3.25 times negative 4.2 plus 22.41. And then, bam. Negative 3.25, parentheses, negative 4.2, close parentheses, plus 22.41, boom, 36.06, D. Connor, Jose, Bella, Tori, Ella, Autumn, Stella, Sarah Jane, Sophie, Rachel, Caleb, Pow, go. Eli, Jace, go on. Okay, what is that? 2 of each. Okay, wow. All right, moving right along. 13. The table shows Savannah's salary for different years. What is the linear regression equation? So, to do this, we need to hit stat enter to open up our table. So here's my calculator. Stat enter table. I'm going to clear out all my values. Now, what do you enter for your x values? Yeah, remember this is where you have to write 0, 1, 2, and 3 for L1, because we don't ever put the year numbers in. And then L2 is the salary. I know it's kind of hard for you guys to see my screen. There we go. Then, do you remember what you press next? Stat Calc 4. Good job. Write that down too. Stat Calc 4. Now I just have to match. I've got 1750 and I've got 40,500. So I know it's either C or D. Which one goes in which order? Yeah, it's A. It says right here AX plus B. Y equals AX plus B. So it's got to be C. Summer? No, you will never have to do the linear regression equation on paper. You better have a calculator. You better have a calculator. Or I guess you'll just get those questions wrong.
No, I mean like, never mind. That's not what I mean. Shut up, I'm not good.
14. The linear regression equation for a data set is y equals negative 1.2x plus 23.5, where y represents the number of balloons sold by a party store each week, and x represents the week number. Use the equation to predict the number of balloons the store will sell during week 8. Round to the nearest whole number. So, what are we doing with that week 8 information? Plugging it in for x. So I'm going to write x equals 8. And then I'm going to write y equals negative 1.2. Plug in 8 plus 23.5. And then I'm going to take that And I'm going to put it into my calculator exactly the same way. Negative 1.2. 8 plus 23.5. I got 13.9. Whole number. So it's A. All right. Piper, Summer. So for 15, causation means cause and effect. Means one thing causes the other thing to change. So, A, when you are at the beach, you get wet. Is it guaranteed that when you are at the beach, you will get wet? No. Bennett, Kaysen, bathroom? Not A. B, when you study for a test, your classmate studies too. No. That's definitely not true. I've proven that this year. C, when you carry an umbrella to school, it rains. No, you can't say that. So let's look at D. When you don't brush your teeth, you get cavities. Yeah.
Unless you're one of those people that just
No, it will eventually happen. I mean, like, I can guarantee you that if you do not brush your teeth for long enough, you will get cavities. Eventually, your teeth will fall out. It's disgusting. All right, 16. What is the correlation coefficient for the data 0, 3, 1, 2, 2, 0? Here's what I want you to write. I want you to make an XY table. We call it a T table, where the left column is X and the right column is Y. First point goes in, 0 and 3. Next point, 1 and 2. Third point, 2 and 0. How do you find correlation coefficient?
Oh, whatever it is, 1 or 0.
Huh?
Whatever you go
Calculator.
I was like, what are you guys talking about?
Stat Calc 4. Same thing as number 13 at the top. So I'm going to grab my calculator again, and I'm going to, let's get it in there. Stat, enter, and I'm going to clear. And then I'm going to put in 0, 1, and 2 for my X, and then I'm going to put in 3, 2, and 0 for my Y, and then hit Stat Calc 4. Now, correlation coefficient. What is it?
R.
I want R. So which one matches R? D is the answer. Does anybody else need to use the restroom? Okay. 17. Which graph represents the compound inequality? X is less than negative 32 or X is greater than 24. Okay. Let's talk about these two symbols. On a number line, what should they look like? This one's going to be open. And what about the other one? They're both going to be open. How do you know?
It's not or equal to.
They don't have the or equal to underneath it. So they both have to be open. So guess which two you can automatically get rid of? A and C. It's either B or it's D. And I'm going to tell you that you don't need to know anything else except how to place numbers on a flippin' number line. It has to be D because that is negative 28 and not negative 32. Yeah. Yeah, it was nice and easy. You can tell I'm serious because I said flippin'. All right. That was not.
Oh,
All right, 18. What is the solution to the inequality 8 times 7 minus x is less than 64? How did you start this problem? Yeah? What if I told you that there's a different way to do it, and I'm going to show it to you right now? What if I told you I'm about to... Yeah!
Divide by 8.
Divide both sides by 8. Divide both sides by 8, and then this 8 on the outside cancels like that, so that you have 7 minus x is less than 64 divided by 8 is 8.
Isn't it just easier just to do 8 times 7?
No, I don't think so. I think that's more steps.
Yeah, true.
But Bennett, if you prefer to distribute it first, you absolutely can. Comes out with the exact same answer. Subtract 7 from both sides. I get negative x is less than 1, but x can't be negative. So I end up with x is...
No, it's supposed to be 7.
It's supposed to be this 7
Yeah.
came down to here, and then I have to move it over. So the answer is C.
I feel so smart when I don't forget to put this on.
I mean, that's what this question was really testing, was do you remember how to flip the sign when you divide by a negative? Oh,
I'm
Tay.
proud of myself.
Okay. Number 19. I put this on here specifically because you guys hated this question so much.
Thanks, Phil.
On the test, you're welcome. Glad to be of service. If this was just a number in front of x, if that was just a 7x, what would you do? No. You're not listening. You're not listening to me. If this was just 7x, what would you do to move that 7?
Divide by 7.
You would divide. So I have to divide by negative 7 over 12 on both sides, so that those will go away. I know that I'm going to have x less than just because I divided by a negative. I'm going to tell you right now that you've already narrowed this question down. It can't be A and it can't be C. Somebody tell me why.
Because it's green.
Yeah, these are both pointing to the right, which implies greater than. But it's going to be less than. So it has to be an arrow that points to the left. Now, 3 divided by negative 7 over 12. Keep the 3, change the divide to a multiply, flip the fraction. 3 times negative 12 over 7. That's how you do this. Hold on, Summer.
36
So it's
divided by 7.
negative 36 over 7. All right, Summer, what's your question?
Oh, it's not a question. I did it differently. I did times negative 12 on each side.
Oh, yep, that's another way that you can do it. So let me write that off here to the side. So negative 7 over 12x greater than 3. So Summer multiplied both sides by 12 like so. So these canceled. And she had negative 7x is greater than 36. Then divide both sides by negative 7. X, flip the sign, negative 36 over 7. Exact same answer. I'm going to tell you that the difference between B and D is where those points are. And negative 36 over 7 is an improper fraction, which means that it's got to be way up here. It can't be this close to 0, so D is not an option, so B is your answer. Okay. Let's talk about number 20 for a second, because I have not necessarily taught, come on, focus. Okay, or don't. I have not necessarily taught you specifically how to do this problem, but you know how. It's asking for the y-intercept. What do you notice about every single one of your multiple choice answers?
Zeros in the x.
They all have a 0 for x. So guess what that means you need to do? Plug in 0 for x.
Oh my gosh, it's so much easier.
4 times 0 minus 3y equals negative 18. What's 4 times 0?
0.
So negative 3y equals negative 18. Guess what y is? D. The y-intercept is always where x equals 0. If you think about on a graph, the y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. The y-axis is where x is 0. Okay. 21. D equals RT. We are solving for T, which means I got to move that R away. R is touching T, which means multiplication. So to undo that, we divide by R. D over R. B. T equals D over
Yeah,
R.
I mean, I got it right, but you just made me confused for a second. I've only gotten one wrong. Man, I'm disappointed.
All right. 22.
Just 'cause you made me believe.
Distributive. Hey, I'm not done with you. Distributive property. Distribute. This should be a gimme. This should be super easy. This should be one of those ones where you literally look at it and circle the answer and move on. Now, 23, slightly more difficult. A equals pi r squared, and we are solving for r. What's the easiest thing to start with? Divide by pi. All right. We've got r squared equals a over pi. Can you undo an exponent by dividing by 2 or multiplying by 2? Well, guess what? That means a is out, b is out, and what do you know? Look at this. It's a over pi, not pi over a. So by process of elimination, the answer is C. We've talked about this before. The opposite of squaring something is square rooting it.
That sounds weird. Square root.
The opposite of raising to the power of 2 is taking the root of the power of 2. But you didn't need to know that. You just needed to know that it had to be a over pi and that you couldn't just undo that 2 by dividing. That's all you needed to know. Good job. Good job. 24.
I always get those.
Which statement describes the pattern shown? Is it more squares or fewer squares? More. Is it 3 more or 6 more? 3. Fantastic. That one was another one where you really should just be able to look at it and go. All right. Shelby's printer had 500 pages in it. After Monday, there were 466. After Tuesday, there were 432. After Wednesday, there were 398. If this pattern continues, how many sheets will be left after Friday? I'm going to tell you right now. You should make yourself just a little list. I'm going to lose it. Monday, there were 466. Tuesday, there were 432. Wednesday, there were 398. Thursday, there were 364. But we want Friday. It's going to be 330. Notice that they put Thursday's number on there. Notice that they also put A is the common difference, the amount that you're subtracting by. They're trying to trip you up. They're going to do this on purpose. Don't let them. 26. Determine if the sequence is arithmetic or geometric, then identify the next term. So, first up, arithmetic or geometric? Why is it geometric?
Because it's adding or multiplying. That's what I meant. That's what I meant. That is actually what I meant.
Write it down. Multiply means geometric.
Oh my gosh, you just made that down.
So A and B are out. What are you multiplying by? 5. So what's 25 times 5? It's 125. So D is the answer. Number 27. Listen, everybody gets number 27 wrong. What is the 10th term of the sequence? N is 10. So A sub 10 equals 1 plus 1 over 3, parentheses, 10 minus 1. 10 minus 1 is 9. A third of 9 is 3. 1 plus 3 is 4. There were quite a few students who got this wrong on the test.
I probably got it wrong on the test, but I got it right now.
Guys, Bennett, did you have a question for me?
No, I got it right, but I didn't not know what I did.
I got it right, but I don't know how. It's okay. I understand. Hey, when they ask you what is the common ratio of the sequence, what does that tell you?
It's geometric.
Oh, it's geometric. What does that mean? It means you're multiplying. So 6 times what equals negative 3? Well, you see how it goes positive, negative, positive, negative?
Yeah.
That means the answer has to be, the common ratio has to be negative. So C and D are out. If you multiply 6 times 2, can you get 3 out of it? No, so it has to be B, negative 0.5.
I've only gotten one wrong.
All right.
I'm like really proud.
You sit in that corner seat right there and you don't talk to anybody, including me. 29. Rachel.
Are there 50 questions on the test?
It can be dividing, but we don't write geometric sequences as divide. We write them as multiply by a decimal. Because dividing by 2 is the same as multiplying by a half. All right, 29. Which represents the explicit formula for the sequence in function form? Notice that that means they've replaced all of them with f of n, and then they all look like some version of mx plus b. So that means distribute and combine like terms. So when I distribute, I have 7 minus 3 times n is 3n, and then negative 3 times negative 1 is positive 3. 7 plus 3 is 10, and 3n is negative, so the answer is D. Does number 30 look familiar?
No.
It was on our test.
Oh God, it was on the test.
That's one I circled.
Samuel pays $59.99 plus 25 cents for each minute over 450 minutes for his cell phone plan. Monica pays $64.99 plus 10 cents for each minute over 450 minutes for her cell phone plan. Which system of equations represents this situation? Let X represent the number of minutes over 450. I want you to circle this here. Now, they've defined the variable for you so that you know what X represents, but they've also told you which part of the word problem is your slope. They've told you what to attach with X. The number that, or the whatever number in here goes with the number of minutes over 450. So that's your 25 cents and your 10 cents. Those are the two numbers that should have X attached to them. So that means A is out, B is out. And then you have to make sure $59.99 is with 25 cents. So it's D. All right. 31. Solve the system of equations. You want to eliminate X or Y? X?
No. Why? Let's eliminate Y.
I already started doing X. You guys are, I already did it. So I have negative 6x minus 8y equals negative 36. Bring this one across. 6x minus 2y equals 6. X's cancel. Negative 10y equals negative 30. Y is 3. I'm done.
Yeah.
There is only one option that has Y as 3, and it's A, and that's it. I don't have to do anything else. Lovely. Hey, look at 32.
I'm not sure which one it
All right, for number 32, you're going to shade inside the shape made by the lines. Let me get this so that you can see it a little bit better. Shade inside the shape made by the lines. Oh, I'm going the wrong direction. There are 3 lines, and there's only one of these graphs that's shaded inside all 3 lines. And it's C. D is shaded inside, that's the y-axis, and this is the x-axis, so that's not right. And then B is like the 2 of the lines, but then that's the y-axis. And then A is all 3 of the lines, but also the y-axis. You should be able to see, oh, there are 3 inequalities here. That means that it's probably going to make a triangle. So A and D have 4 sides in their shape. That shouldn't be right. All right, 33. Which inequality is represented by the graph? The very first thing that I looked at is the fact that the line is dashed. So it can't be C or D because those symbols do not represent dashed lines. The only difference between A and B is it's greater than or less than. So is it shaded above or below?
Above.
Above, so it's A. Above means greater than.
Above is also right.
If it's a vertical line. If it's a vertical line, it's greater than is also right. Okay, 34. I want you to make both of these. I want you to make both of these look like y equals mx plus b so that we can compare them. So that means that for the first one, I want you to switch the order. Y equals negative 4x plus 7. And then for the second one, we're going to distribute. Y equals negative 2 times 2x is negative 4x. And then negative 2 times 4 is negative 8. Tell me what you notice here. Same slope.
These are parallel.
Same slope means that the lines are parallel. What does that mean?
No solution.
Durbin, if you're making noise, I'm gonna... Nope. If you're making noise, you are gonna regret it. If the lines are parallel, what does that mean?
It's no solution.
But why is it no solution?
Because they'll never intersect.
They'll never cross or intersect. Write that down. Parallel lines never intersect. So it is no solution. The solution to a system of equations is where the two equations intersect. And so if you've got two parallel lines, they never intersect, which means they can never have a solution. 35. Which system of linear inequalities is represented by the graph? All right. I have one solid line and one dashed line. Okay? My solid line is the one that goes through -1. So that could be this one, but it can't be B, and it can't be C, but it could be D. The only difference between A and D is the slope of the second line, right? You see how in A it's -2x and in B it's in D it's 2x. That second line, you see how one of them's increasing and the other one's decreasing, right? You can see how they cross like that. So that means my second line has to be negative, so it has to be A. And really, how much math did we actually do for that? Well, I mean, we did what we knew. We knew that the second line had to be a negative slope. That's it. Okay. 36 is something I have not taught you. It is not on the test, but we're going to write something down for it anyway. Okay. Step 1. Find the slope between these 2 points. Slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. 4 minus -4 is the same as 4 plus 4, which is 8. 3 minus -9 is the same as 3 plus 9, which is 12, which reduces to 2 over 3. Now, step 2. Here you go. This is the moment to learn this. Perpendicular lines. They do. Perpendicular lines are lines that meet at a 90-degree angle. They create a perfect, plus sign. They have slopes that are opposite reciprocals. So to take the slope of this line and to make it perpendicular, you have to flip and negate, meaning make it negative and flip it upside down. So the answer is A, -3 over 2.
Man, I thought I got it right. Me too.
This is a new thing for you guys.
I really thought I was gonna get it right.
I'll be honest. I'm just writing.
I thought I was.
That's okay. It's not on the midterm.
I might sound this.
Bennett, it's not on the midterm. I just forgot to take it off, and I apologize. Okay.
Why does it have to turn negative?
Think of two perpendicular lines. One of them's going to be positive. The other one has to be negative. 37. Hey guys, we don't have that many more that I want to get through. So real quick. 37. Which table of values does not represent a linear function? Well, let's look first. X is going up by ones, and then is this one changing by the same amount every time?
Yes.
Okay, so that one's linear, so it's not A. This is going up by 1, these are going up by halves, so it's not that. These are going up by ones. These are negatives. Let's see. This is minus 5. Oh, I totally wrote plus when I meant to write minus up here. Nobody caught me. That's minus 5. Oh, okay. I didn't hear you. Sorry. You all caught me and I didn't listen. 2 to negative 1 is minus 3. And then negative 1 to negative 2 is minus 1. So it is C. And then just to verify D is linear. It's going up by 1s on the x side. And then it's going up by 3s on the y side. So it's changing by the same amount. All right. 38.
I missed
38, what is the equation of the line that passes through negative 3, 2 and is parallel? This should not have been terribly difficult for you, but here's how you do it. Plot the point negative 3, 2. What do you know about parallel lines?
Same slopes.
So we're going to use the graph to see what the slope is, right? It's just down 1 over 1. So I can do the same thing to draw this line. And now I just have to match these equations to that pink line I just drew. So it crosses at negative 1. So it's either A or B. And then is my slope positive or negative?
Negative.
So it's B.
Oh, this
Y'all, what is average rate of change?
slope. Whoa. Are you disappointed because I was the one that
Average rate of change means slope. They just want to know what the slope of the table is. It's going up by 4 as it goes up by 2. Slope is change in y over change in x.
What?
So it's D.
Wait, it's y over x.
Change in y over change in x.
Wait,
The change in y?
yeah.
Yeah.
You could do that.
Slope is change in y over change in x. So it's how much the right side's changing by divided by how much the left side's changing by. All right, let's do 40 and then we'll call it for today. What linear function models the table of values? I need to know what m is and I need to know what b is. We've already talked about how the y-intercept is where x is 0. So the y-intercept is 3. The slope, like I said, change in y over change in x. So the slope is negative 2. So the answer is D.
Yay!
Y, f of x equals negative 2x plus 3.
I don't remember how I did that, but I did it.